Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, I'm Marilyn, and if you're returning, thanks so much for coming back. Do you ever find yourself in the situation where you make a design, or maybe you download it off the internet, and it's cute, but it's a little basic? Needs a little something to make it more cute. That's the situation I was in today. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you what I decided to do. I'm going to show you in Cricut Design Space, but this same exact concept could be used in Silhouette Studio, Leonardo Design Space, or other design softwares. We'll spend most of our time in the software, but once I'm done with the design, I will cut it out using my Cricut Maker. I'm going to put my design on this black t-shirt. I'll use a Teflon sheet, a weeding tool, some scissors. I'll use my heat press. I'll also use these beautiful bright pieces of HTB. So I have this bluish, the green, and a holographic. If you're curious to see what I'm talking about, sit back, relax, and let's get started. Let's go ahead and open up Cricut Design Space, and like I said in the intro, you can do this in Cricut as well as other programs. The mechanics of how you do it are a little different, but the concepts are the same. We're going to start by going right here to New Project. I'll click on that, and then I want to say that I'm starting with a blank canvas. And I don't need this, let's get rid of it. To bring in my project, I'm going to go right here to Upload, Upload Image. Now I can go find it on my desktop, or I can just drag it in. It's right here, so I'll click on it, and I'll say Open. I made this in another software. You also could do this in Cricut, but I saved it as an SVG. Now that's something you can't do in Cricut, which is why I typically design somewhere else. I did a lot of designing in Cricut, but I quickly realized you can't save your designs as SVGs. So if you change your cutting machine or you want to sell your designs, you can't. So I usually use Silhouette Studio or Inkscape. All right, let's go ahead and say Continue. Upload. I originally made this design so that I can make it into a rhinestone template. But there's a lot of people that don't do rhinestones, so I wanted to have it as a basic cut file so that other people could use it as well. Let me go ahead and ungroup this and show you what I did when I made it. Okay, I do not like to layer any vinyl on top of other vinyl or anything else for that matter. I don't like glitter HTV on vinyl. I don't like vinyl on vinyl. So here's what I'm starting with. When I made the design, I already sliced the word breathe out of just. Then on this end, I actually sliced the T, or the word just, out of the H and the E. So let me go ahead and put that back. I just wanted you to be aware it's already partially done, but we're still going to be doing some more slicing on this design. Notice how the T has the appearance of being on top of the H and the E, but the B has the appearance of being on top of the J. Like I showed you, nothing overlaps. That's just the appearance. I want to keep that appearance as I continue on with this. To start with, I'm going to go ahead and group these back. I just wanted to show you what we were starting with. So I selected them both, go right here, and I'll click that. That groups them back together. Then I want to go up here to Offset, and I want to put an offset around the entire design. Now that is way too large. Let me just slide it over until I think it looks good. I really don't want much of an offset, but I want something that's sparkly and ties this whole thing together. This is a layer that I'm going to cut out of the holographic vinyl. Let's go just a little bit smaller. Let's try 0.07. I changed the number, then I hit return on my keyboard, and that gives me what it looks like. I think I'm going to stick with that. Let's go ahead and say apply. When you do that, it turns black. Okay, so already this makes this look a little more interesting, but we still have some work to do. Notice how the offset is the same size around everything except between the T and the H and the E, as well as the B and the J. What I want to do with this file is make it where you see more black here. so the offset looks consistent here as well as over here. When I was working on this, I found that it got a little bit complicated, so that's why I'm doing the tutorial. I want to share what I learned with you. To start with, I want to go ahead and select everything, hit Command-C for copy, Command-V for paste, and then let's just pull one of these out of the way. I like to keep what I start with because if I make mistakes, I can go back to the original design and start over. But I do want to hide this. So let's go up here and click on hide and hide. Remember that I want to keep the appearance of the T being on top of the H and the E and the B being on top of the J. And that's really what makes this a little more complex than usual. We're going to start down here. What I'll have to do is I will have to do another offset of just the word just and then slice that offset out of the H and the E. On the other end, however, I'm going to need to do an offset of the B and slice that out of the word just. So the first thing that I want to do is go ahead and separate the letters. Let me click on this, and just to show you that's everything here, let me click back. So we'll click back on this and we'll ungroup it. Then I need to click on the word breathe. I can click over here and ungroup it. Let's start at this end. I'm going to go ahead and select the H, hold the Shift key down, and add the E to it. I can either click on the E here, or I can click right over here. Now that I have both of those selected, I'm going to go ahead and group those. Now let's go up to the word just. If you're not sure what you have, just move it, and then you can always hit the back button. So I'll click on just. I'm going to go back to offset. And the trick here is you have to keep the exact same offset, the same size. So I'll click apply. Now you can't see it. It looks like it didn't do anything, but it's down there somewhere, and it is still selected. You can see that right here. So with it still selected, let's go up here and hit arrange and bring to front. Now with that still selected, I'm going to hit the Shift key, and then I'm going to select this group down here. And I don't know what I selected. Let me do that over. We'll click the offset of just, and let's look for that H and the E. It might be this one. Let's see what that is. Okay, that's it. So I have it selected, hold the Shift key down, add this to it. Now remember I said I wanted to slice the T out of the H and the E. Notice that's not an option. The reason it's not an option is because you can just have 2 layers to use the slice function. I actually have 3 because all I did was I grouped the H and the E together. We're going to have to fix that before we can move on. So let's go back to the H and the E. I can go down here to combine, and I'm going to use unite. Now some people use weld. I never use weld anymore. I can't figure out why I would want to use weld, because if you use weld and then you spend a lot more time on your design and you realize you need something in it fixed or changed, you have to go all the way back to when you welded in order to change it. So you have to go back, and meanwhile you've lost all the additional work you did. So instead of using weld, I use unite. Let me show you. It does the same basic thing as weld, but it is reversible, and it's easily reversible. See, they're still selected. I could go back to combine, and I could say undo unite. For now, let's keep them united. That makes them considered to be one layer, and now I'll be able to slice this T out of the H and the E. All right, I do need to make sure that the T is on top of the H and the E, or the offset is. So with it selected, let's go up and check on that. Arrange, bring to front, and you can see now it covered over part of that H and E. So that offset is still selected. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and add the HE to it. I can let go of the Shift key now and slice. All right, so let's get rid of this and see what it looks like. That's exactly what I wanted. Now I have a few other things left over from it. Let's click on the slice result here, click on the slice result there, and we'll delete both of those. We're going to do the same basic thing down here, but this time we're going to do an offset of the B. So let's click on that B, and I feel like when I do this, I might lose my B. So I'm going to hit Command C for copy, Command V for paste, so I have an extra one here if I need it. All right, so we're clicking on the B, going back to offset. We're keeping the exact same offset, and we're going to click apply. You can see it looks great, but right now that is a separate cut layer. I need to actually get that attached to my other offset. Before I can do that, I have to slice out of this J. What I want to slice out of the J, though, is the offset. I think that's what's selected, but let's go up here and say Arrange and Bring to Front. Okay, that is the offset. So with it still selected, I'll hold the Shift key down, add the word Just to it. Once again, right here, I can't slice it. Let me show you why. In the word Just, there's some different parts. This is all on its own, so that needs to be either welded or united. Again, I don't use weld, so I'll unite it. Now let me put it back in place first. I'll click the back button, select it. It is grouped together, so now I can just go to Combine and Unite. I need to find that offset again. I'm going to find it right here. Hold the Shift key down, add the word Just to it, and slice. All right, let's see what we have. Let's just get rid of this slice result, get rid of this slice result, and I think we're good. Let me pull this off and see. Okay, so that's still together. All the letters need to be put together. So we have the HE, hold the Shift key down, add the B. Okay, I added the B that's up in the corner. Let's get rid of that one. Let's add this B and the rest of the letters. Okay, so now I'm going to go right up here and say Group. Now while I'm thinking about it, let me just get rid of this. All right, let's pull Breathe off. Now what I'm curious about is, are there any extra little artifacts down here that I need to weld together? So I'm just going to move it, and there's some right there. I don't know if they're necessary, but I know it looked fine with them. So let's go back. It's right here. Let's delete them and see what happens. Okay, it still looks the same, but that's something that your Cricut would have wanted to cut out. So I like to look behind things. Now we're just going to put this back together, and we have one more part to this process. Before I can move on though, I need to make sure that these are exactly where I want them. So I'm going to hit Command plus and zoom in. Let's move that just a little bit. And then it looks like this needs to move over just a little bit. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Notice there's this one little hole right there. Let's click on the offset, and then I can go to contour. Oh my, which one of these things do I need to get rid of? I think it's that one. Let's hide that and then go back and look. Yes, so now it's just going to cut out solid there. You're not going to have that little bitty thing there. If I were to cut this now, Just and Breathe would be on top of my holographic vinyl. Remember, I said I don't like to ever layer vinyl. So let me click back and make this smaller. Okay, first of all, I'm going to get rid of this and this, the things that I hid. We don't need them. And I'm going to make a copy of this. So Command C for copy, Command V for paste. Move it down here. And then let's zoom back in. And it doesn't matter which one I use. What I want to do now is I want to slice just and breathe out of that back offset. Since you can only be working with 2 layers to do the slice, I need to combine just and breathe into 1 layer. So let's click off. So we're going to select breathe, hold the shift key, add just to it, and I can go down here to combine and unite. Now there's only 2 layers and I'll be able to slice that. So we're selecting both layers, hit the slice, and we can move this out of the way, and right inside here is what I wanted to get rid of. That way when I layer my vinyl, every piece of that vinyl is sitting on the shirt and not on vinyl below it. Notice that I can't really do anything with this. I can't change the colors back. I can't go down here to combine and uncombine it because it's a slice result. So we're going to delete it. And then we're going to go over here to the one that I saved. I want just. Okay, so that's just. So I'll click on just, hold the shift key down, add breathe to it. Then I can drag them down on top of the other slice result, get it all lined up, and we're ready to cut this. Notice this is 9.82 inches wide by 6.73 tall. That's a little small for my size of shirt. So I'll go ahead and select everything, and I can either drag it or I could go to more and I could change it in the settings. The proportions are locked, so let's make this 10.5 inches wide. Okay, I think that's a better size for my shirt. Now we're going to say make, and I'll say save. Let's save it to shirts. I'll name it just breathe, and I'll say save. All right, so it is setting up my cut files. With HTV, unless you're using one of those types of patterned HTVs that you use a transfer mask with, for most HTVs, you mirror your design. So I'm going to go ahead and say mirror. I'll go down here. Oh my goodness, look at this rookie mistake I made. I failed to attach all those letters together. When you don't attach pieces that aren't physically connected, the maker tries to decide what's the most efficient way to use the space. So it just puts them really close together in what order it decides to do. So let's go to this group and say attach. Now we should be fine. Let's say make. We're going to mirror. Let's go to this one. Now it truly says breathe. We'll mirror that. And then I have the word just with all my little parts and pieces, and I'll say mirror. I'm going to cut my holographic vinyl first. So back to this layer, I'll say continue. And let's look for holographic. I'll use this setting here and I'll say done. All right, I'm ready to get my material on my cutting mat and get to work. I cut the 3 layers of HTV for the shirt on my Cricut Maker. After cutting that first layer, I changed the cut settings, and then I used the everyday iron-on setting for my next 2 layers of HTV. I pre-pressed my shirt to remove moisture, and I also used a lint roller on it. Now I'm going to use a couple of pieces of heat-resistant tape so the design doesn't shift as I move it to the heat press. I'm going to press this holographic HTV at 320 degrees for 15 seconds. This holographic vinyl is a cold peel, so I'll let the shirt sit for a bit. Now that it's cool, I'll remove the heat-resistant tape and remove the carrier sheet. I'm going to slow down the video because I want you to see how pretty this holographic vinyl is. I don't like using it or glitter HTV in large areas because neither has a really good soft feel to me, but I do like to use them for smaller details like an outline. I've also used this holographic vinyl to make faux rhinestone designs, and it is really beautiful, and it resembles rhinestones well if you're interested in trying a faux rhinestone project. I'll put my next layer, which is the word breathe, down on my shirt, and then add a couple of pieces of heat-resistant tape to it as well. I made sure not to put the tape on top of the layer already pressed. Now I'm going to press this layer at 305 degrees for 10 seconds. This layer is a hot peel, so I don't have to wait for the shirt to cool. Now for my last layer, this one gets pretty tricky because with multiple presses, the shirt can shrink a bit, the prior layers of vinyl can shrink a bit. So if you find that this happens, just take your time, manipulate your shirt, and try to get the layers to fit together as well as possible. I took quite a bit of time to try to get the layers to line up as well as possible by tugging on my shirt and using quite a bit of tape. Mine isn't perfect, but it's still going to be perfectly cute. After all 3 layers of vinyl were down, I went ahead and put this back under the press for 15 seconds. I do feel like the teal vinyl got overheated a bit. I probably should have only done that last press for a few seconds, but it's still fine. Here's how the shirt turned out, and I just love it. I think it's really cute. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video or learned something new. If you did, please give me that thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing that. If you do subscribe, make sure and click that bell and then select the all notifications so that YouTube lets you know anytime I upload new content. And as always, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you in my next video.